grade ones, Mrs. Sellers and Wesley the cat here. We're super excited to continue on our book series. We're reading Magic Treehouse by Mary Pope Osborne. We're reading book number 1, Dinosaurs Before Dark. What chapter did we leave on, Wesley? We left on chapter 2. We finished chapter 2. We're moving on to chapter 3. So in chapter 2, we last left off where Annie and Jack were crouched on the floor of the treehouse, and the wind started to blow faster and faster, and then everything was spinning around and then went really still. What do you think that means, Wesley? Ooh, Wesley's guess is that they might be traveling. I wonder what this looks like. So we are on chapter 3, and it is called Where Is Here? We are actually today going to be reading chapter 3 and chapter 4 because they're pretty short. So sit back and get ready. Here we go. So chapter 3, Where Is Here? Jack opened his eyes. Sunlight slanted through the window. The treehouse was still high up in a tree, but it wasn't the same tree. "Where are we?" said Annie. She and Jack looked out the window. The pteranodon was soaring through the sky. The ground was covered in ferns and tall grass. There was a winding stream and sloping hills and volcanoes in the distance. I don't know where we are," said Jack. The pteranodon glided down to the base of the tree. It landed on the ground and stood very still. "So, what just happened to us?" asked Annie. "Well," said Jack, "I was looking at the picture in the book, and you said, 'Wow, I wish we could go to the time of the pteranodons,'" said Annie. "Yeah, and then we saw a pteranodon in Frog Creek Woods," said Jack. "Yeah, and then the wind got loud, and the treehouse started spinning," said Annie. "And we landed here," said Jack. "And we landed here," said Annie. "So that means what?" said Annie. "I don't know," said Jack. He shook his head. "None of this can be real." Annie looked out the window again. "But he's real. He's very real." Jack looked out the window with her again. The pteranodon was standing at the base of the tree like a guard. His giant wings were spread out on either side of him. "Hi!" Annie shouted. "Shh!" said Jack. "We're not supposed to be here." "But where is here?" said Annie. "I don't know," said Jack. "Hi! How are you?" Annie called to the pteranodon. The creature just looked up at her. "Are you nuts? He can't talk," said Jack. "Maybe the book can tell us." Jack looked down at the book. He read the words under the picture. This flying reptile lived in the Cretaceous period. It vanished 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs. There's a cool picture on here. There's Annie climbing down the rope ladder to the pteranodon. "That's impossible," said Jack. "We can't have gone to a time 65 million years ago." "Jack," said Annie. "He's nice." "Nice," said Jack. "Yeah, I can tell," said Annie. "Let's go to him." "Go down," said Jack. Annie started down the rope ladder. "Hey, come back," said Jack. But Annie kept going. "Annie, wait!" called Jack. Annie dropped to the ground. She stepped boldly up to the ancient creature. Wow. So now we are on chapter 4. And chapter 4 is called Henry. Let's find out. Wesley just moved spots. He's just right here. We'll say hi to him after. So chapter 4, Henry. Jack gasped as Annie reached out her hand toward the pteranodon. "Oh no," he thought. Annie was always trying to make friends with animals, but this was going too far. "Don't get too close to him, Annie," Jack shouted. Annie touched the pteranodon's crest. She stroked his neck. She was talking to him. What in the world is she saying? Jack wondered. He took a deep breath. Okay, he would go down too. It would be good to examine a pteranodon. He could also take notes, like a scientist. Jack started down the rope ladder. When he reached the ground, he was only a few feet away from the creature. The pteranodon stared at Jack. His eyes were bright and alert. He's soft, said Annie. He feels like Henry. Jack snorted. He's no dog, Annie. Feel him, Jack, said Annie. Jack didn't move. Don't think, Jack. Just do it, Annie said. Jack stepped forward. He reached out very cautiously. He brushed his hand down the creature's neck. Interesting, Jack thought. A thin layer of fuzz covered the pteranodon's skin. Soft, huh? Said Annie. Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out a pencil and a notebook. He wrote, fuzzy skin. What are you doing? Asked Annie. Taking notes, said Jack. We're probably the first people in the whole world to ever see a real live pteranodon. Jack looked at the pteranodon again. The bony crest on top of his head was longer than Jack's arm. I wonder how smart he is, Jack asked. Very smart, said Annie. Don't count on it, said Jack. His brain's probably no bigger than a bean. No, he's very smart. I can feel it, said Annie. I'm going to call him Henry. Jack wrote in his notebook, small brain, question mark? You can see Annie here. This is the crest that they're talking about on the top of his head. And you can see Jack writing in his notebook. Jack looked at the creature again. Maybe he's a mutant, he said. The pteranodon tilted his head. Annie laughed. He's no mutant, Jack. Well, what's he doing here then? Where is this place? Said Jack. Annie leaned close to the pteranodon. Do you know where we are, Henry? She asked softly. The creature fixed his eyes on Annie. His long jaws were opening and closing like a pair of scissors. Are you trying to talk to me, Henry? Annie asked. Forget it, Annie, Jack wrote in his notebook. Mouth like scissors. Did we come to a long time ago, Henry? Asked Annie. Is this place from a long ago? Suddenly, Annie gasped. Jack! Jack looked up. Annie was pointing toward the hill. On top stood a huge dinosaur. Uh-oh. Look at this dinosaur. Wow, that's a huge dinosaur. That brings us to chapter 5, Gold in the Grass. Ooh, Wesley. I'm really excited to find out. What do you think is going to happen next, West? What do you think is going to happen next, Wesley? Wesley thinks that there's going to be a lot more dinosaurs for us to meet. I agree. I think so too. There's probably a lot more dinosaurs to meet. What else? Maybe there's a gold dinosaur in the grass. That might be true. You're right. What do you think is going to happen next? I'm excited to read chapter 5, so I'm going to read chapter 5 and probably 6. Maybe we'll do 2 chapters again next time. Look back, we'll probably post another video before the end of the week, so we're going to try to post it as many times as we can. Wesley's super excited.